Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Times Hour. All right, D, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please welcome to the T our next special guest. He's the original California kid, the kind of Ken we all need for a friend, the lad who could huck a lid farther and better than anyone ever did. He dizzied the scene when he made the disc dance on a string, long and strong with those lines clean and mean. He went to Japan as a stand of the plan to grow the game and increase the Frisbee fame across all lands. He won the Lark to make his mark in the land of the rising sun, but his legacy was assured after the Rochester Worlds, where he hurled it pure and remains the youngest champ ever to light the lamp. But the shine doesn't end there. It's an image so clear you can see it in smell-o-vision. Scratch and sniff, the golden child won the whiff-diff in Helsingborg, where he had them all wanting more. He's the three of hearts and the master of all Frisbee arts, and he's been playing his part to make the game go global. How far can he go? Next up, the Cosmos. But first, he's here to dish some goods with us. On the tee, from Rancho Cucamonga, the center of the innovating universe, proud captain of the Heinz Psycho Ward Goon Squad, Sam Farrens.
Elia, you still have it, you silver-tongued devil. You know what? I think you had a little iambic pentameter in there.
I do like to. I mean, I got a master's in lit, so it's kind of in there, you know. Cooking along with all the other.
There you go.
Bro,
The
that
wordsmithing
was
didn't
awesome.
come
Thank
by
you.
accident.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Welcome, Sam. Thanks for joining us, man. It's
Hey,
good
man,
to
it's
see
a
you. And like
honor to be
we were
here.
talking earlier, I can't wait to see you in person in Rock Hill. That's going to be great.
Right around the corner, man, and it's an honor to be here as well, you guys. That's geez, Mace Man, we're gonna see. I think I saw you last year at USTGC.
Oh yeah.
When did we see each other last? I mean, it wasn't Japan, right?
No, I didn't. I wasn't on the stick with that. Like, I need a reminder from all you guys when that comes up next time, because that's one that I mean, like, it really looked like you guys really had a great time afterwards too. And that was really one of the things that I was looking forward to possibly go when I went again, was getting a little bit more culture. So I'm definitely down the next time that comes up, without a doubt.
Yeah,
I'll take
2027. Let's put it on the schedule.
I might even just show up and help with the tournament, you know.
Sure, but Bellier, you were with me in the 90s. Remember that?
I met you in 1997 at Showa Park.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
That was
amazing. And I'll be honest with you, like, long winter nights in Toronto under the huge blanket of snow, I wasn't going out to play snow golf. Screw that. I'm not that kind of brave guy. So I would just like hole up with the Disc Golf World News and the Disc Golf Journal and just geek out and stand out. And you would just always want to. So when I got to meet you in Japan, it was like, oh my God. I'm surprised I didn't hump your leg the first time I met you, honestly. So,
you remember what happened? It was rainy. We were walking across the street. You remember that fateful night?
no, I don't. Well, remind me. There was a lot
Okay.
of alcohol involved in Japan.
Well, there was beer, there was vending machines for sure, but
Well, yeah, that kind of goes with hanging out with Sam and Komiko in Japan, from my experience personally.
oh come on, you were a champion over there, man.
Oh
But
well.
just real quickly, not to divert from the show.
Oh, please.
I remember Paul jumped, he must have been tired, but he was going across. We were going back across the street to my apartment, and cars go kind of a different way in Japan. The big old bus was coming. Paul stepped off the curb, and I pulled him back. I saved your life. I don't know if you remember that, but that's just
Definitely
part of
alcohol
my
was a
memory
factor.
we probably had a little room, but I mean, I pulled you back and I said, man, this isn't Toronto.
Yeah.
You got to look the other way.
Yeah. See, you know,
Oh.
I was dazzled by the bright lights, big city for sure. It was. So we're gonna get to talk to Japan with you, but actually, Mace, I don't want to steal your thunder. Set up the.
No worries at all. All right, so here's the framework for the show. We're talking with Sam Farrens tonight, in case you didn't know, and we're gonna do our best to cover the following. And if we don't pull this off, then we'll probably drag him on stage in Rock Hill and get the rest of it covered out there.
Come on, man.
No way.
What do you mean? Come on, man. Okay, I mean, we're gonna go late if that's what you want to do. So first things first, obviously we'll do the origin story and your PDGA story, but your PDGA number story. We'll talk about the early 80s, growing up. I always refer to you as one of the test pilots, like you and Craig and and I guess Stokely to some degree, and all those young guys that were out there all the time in La Mirada, you know, oh, here, throw this, let me see how this works for you, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's like my nickname for you to some degree. But also Rochester Worlds, Sweden, Toronto Worlds, distance, Japan, obviously, Innova also obviously, and then we'll wrap it up with 20 questions. And so among the many accomplishments, here's a quick snap of some of the highlights. You're the former distance world record holder. You were in the Guinness Book of World Records to 624.58 feet. You have been playing on the tour for 39 seasons, which is amazing. In 42 years of disc golf. And how old are you again?
I just I just turned 56. So next year.
Oh, so you graduated in 85?
Yeah.
Same as me.
Nice.
I knew I liked you, man.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple other reasons. And then so you were obviously the youngest person to ever win a world championship in 1984. And then you backed it up with a whiff diff world championship in 1985. And now you're a member of went in with Cup and one of the coolest people ever, Tim Selinsky, in 1999 to the World Disc Golf Hall of Fame.
Right there.
Yeah, that's a total honor, man.
So I have 2 quick questions here. First of all, are you also the youngest ever to win the whiff diff world championships?
I don't know. I mean, that was a little different because those events were kind of, I mean, they were set up a little differently, but whiff diff in Sweden was like I think the great, I mean, I'm going to say it was the greatest whiff diff world championships that they had. We had a US team, Levon Wolf. I mean, I should have made notes, but
he mentioned it. Like he talked about it too. We've had him on already.
Levon Wolf was there. Gosh, man, I could see his face. But Stokely was there. Dan Roddick was there. Harold was there. Conrad Damon was there. Snapper Pearson was there. My friend Michael Sullivan was there. And his brother, who got in a lot of trouble. But we won't
talk. We'll have to get into that. Okay, so but let's just say for intents and purposes, you are the youngest world champion, both of those, whiff diff and the PDGA, because I did some research, and whiff diff doesn't have the same records database that the PDGA does. It's not as easy to research and access. And so just for my tepid, shallow dive, I couldn't find anyone. Now they've got younger age-based divisions at whiff diff, but at the time it was just a 1 overall. And so I think you are the youngest for both those. Probably never to be beaten ever again. I don't know. I mean, 16 winning the world champion, the PDGA Worlds. These kids are getting good, but my goodness, there's a lot of them getting good. They're going to be hard to beat that. And my second thing to ask you is going in with Tim Selinsky. That must have been such an amazing honor because you guys have been so connected for most of your career. I mean, Steve Weisskopf is an amazing wingman to have in the PDGA, in the Hall of Fame as well. But talk about sorry, I'm going to interrupt, but like it's an interesting perspective right there. How was it going in with Ski?
Well, I was surprised, man. I mean, it was 1999, and I just came back from working in Japan, and Dave said, "Come work at the headquarters." So I was still living in La Mirada doing the commute up here, and I was working alongside Tim Selinsky in the office I'm in today, which is very emotional. But to have that, that news come about that we were going in together was an honor. I felt like I wasn't worthy, especially with Tim, but that was, to me, was a fantastic honor, and I still can't believe it today. I mean, what a group of guys, Steve Weisskopf to head into the hall with, and
yeah, just amazing. I mean, like that's a great one of the questions we like to throw in for 20 questions is what would be your dream card, and that right there would be an amazing dream card.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this though, I've played bad enough on multiple occasions to get to play with Harold and Tim at Worlds more than once. And that is like, don't cover your face. It's a great thought. I mean, like we were all three equally terrible, and we all three just had the greatest time. You know what I mean? And like I remember some different things that both of them told me from those rounds, and just, you know, they had an effect on me going forward. You know, so I can only just imagine what being around them every day is like. You know.
Yeah, it was magical, man. I mean, it's an honor. It's an honor of my life. Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
So let's start with the origin story. Your parents both extremely talented, and one of the things that really came to me during the research and thinking about this was your father was incredibly talented, but also he worked extremely hard. I read he's up at 4 a.m. working hard, even when he was, you know, later in life, and that combined with a natural gift, a natural talent, that's what gives great success. It's the hard work ethic. How much of your father influenced your approach to the game? I mean, I know you started really young, and so you had a lot of natural talent, but did you see your father as that role model for hard work as well?
I did. I mean, he put us in on course. I mean, I was born in Washington, D.C. He was out there. He was under contract. I was born on Lyndon Johnson's birthday, of all people, of all presidents.
Of all presidents.
And my mother, who was very, you know, studious, a journalist, wrote Lyndon Johnson a birthday card on August 27th. And sure enough, we got a birthday card back from President Lyndon Johnson. So I still have that card. That's just a side note. But after that, we moved to Maryland to Montreal, brother. We're up in Montreal in 72. That's where my brother was born. He was up there doing, he was a civil structural engineer, designing for power plants. And he enabled us to move around. So long story short, Montreal, Michigan, Bridgewater, Michigan, colonial town. Remember that? That was, you know, I still didn't throw a disc yet, but then we found ourselves buying a Pinto going across the United States to Oakland, California, where he had his next job. And I remember the story. I don't really remember vividly parents talking about it, but Dad said, the next job I have is either in San Antonio, Texas, or Norwalk, California. And Mom's like, California. So because of that choice, I was brought in the mid 70s to Norwalk, California, and the adjacent town is La Mirada, and that's where we settled down. So that's pretty much how I got there.
Yeah. So you get finally to La Mirada, or the next over from La Mirada. How do you get to the Frisbee stage? I know Frisbees were in the zeitgeist. Everybody knew what a Frisbee was.
It was a Frisbee back then for sure. And we were driving with the Pinto down Santa Gertrudis, and we saw these orange poles. They were orange poles. Ed, this was the second course to go in. Ed put in orange poles, 9 holes at La Mirada. I'm like, what is that? And I see these like people throwing these discs at these orange poles. I'm like, that's cool. Mom's like, yeah, those people look a little seedy, you know? And
not many engineers out there at the time,
no,
probably.
Not many engineers at all. So I got my Super Pro, and by the way, I think Paul, Super Pros is a definite good nickname for you. But I got my Super Pro. We were out there playing. I got 2 of them, and then Dad was transferred to Taiwan, believe it or not. So rented out the house in La Mirada. All of us, including our dog, went to Taiwan for 2 years.
Wow.
Crazy. And so I'm throwing these discs still. I throw it over this hill. I didn't realize there was like a running like stream river. Lost the discs. That was it for a flying disc until we came back in like 78. And I think it was 78. And those orange poles turned into Mach 1s. Right. So then it was an actual catching device. And I was like, I got to do this now. So that's when I like, this is cool. I've been waiting to do this for 2 years. And, and parents were extremely supportive. You know, Dad was like, why don't you come up and hit hit the links with, or hit the, you know, the club with me. And I'm like, Dad, I like the flying disc. And later met a man that yeah, there was a guy up there with a horse trailer. It was Warburter's Odyssey, and that was the first company that led into discovering the world, in Dan Mangoni. So that's another
Oh,
story
nice.
altogether. So he was the guy selling the moonlighters up there, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. This is not a Super Pro. You know, this is not 140 grams. I mean, we were getting discs that were 150, 160 grams, Moonlighter, big 42 molds. And Dan was teaching me the thumber. Never forget that. And I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. And a big old scrape on my arm from the result of throwing the thumber. And when I got home, Mom's like, what the heck are you doing up there? You know? So she stormed up and confronted Dan Mangoni and said, what are you doing to my son? He's like, Mrs. Farrens, I'm just teaching him the thumber. So that's where the Dan Mangoni and my mom met, and they became fast friends. And that was my extended family up at La Mirada Park.
That's cool. That, I mean, that probably worked as a great conduit for the, like, all of a sudden, okay, because we've had other guys talk about how they, like Scott, you know, how the adults from Oak Grove took him, you know, they'd take him to events and took him overseas and all that kind of thing. So that's really it's amazing. And man, talking about Dan Mangoni, man, so Leva is a huge influence on me, or was a huge influence on me, and he used to mention all these guys, you know, Dan Mangoni, Randy Amon. I mean, like, all these different people that you like, especially that since we've been, like, we told Harold's story, at least to the part where Innova starts, and you know, just hear all these names. And I've heard them so often because Leva was right there with you guys too, you know, and like telling me stories about 250 gram super puppies and stuff like that, you know, and just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Give up.
we'll get to specific. We want to get into Leva stories. We want to get into a couple other stories, but I
Yeah,
just want
for
to
sure.
get us first of all to, okay, so you figure out the course, you figure out the you know, you got the new discs. Did you, I know the PDGA records are a little fragmentary, and most of them only go back maybe to 80, 82 at the earliest. So I think for you, it says it starts in 1982, but were you playing in Frisbee events before that, or was, like, talk to us about your first kind of organized entry?
Juniors, man. There were three divisions: men, women, and juniors back then.
Okay.
And there was this great event. I'm trying to, oh yeah, it was the looking at the disc. It was the Wheaties World Junior Frisbee Championships.
Wow.
I got into that, and I don't know who got me into it. It might have been Dan. And it was like I had, like, you know, a couple of the locals, man. You know them to these days. I mean, Mark Molnar, who works for us, and his brother Mike Molnar, who works for us, and Mike Taylor, who's doing carpentry, and Craig Leva, and we were all the junior Rugrats playing. And they came up with this. I mean, it was a full event. It was like a little mini overall tournament. So you had accuracy and freestyle and distance and golf, and there was no discathon or anything like that. But I think there was like 4 or 5, and we all did the regionals. I think I did pretty well the first year. It was like when we were 13 or something. But 1986, 1982 or 3, I ended up qualifying to go to Orlando for the World Championships.
Oh,
And yeah, that's what I was like, whoa. And my parents were like, what happened? I'm like, I won this a tournament. I get to go. And so I flew out with Dan Mangoni, who was my, no, did I fly? Yeah, I flew out with Mangoni, who was my chaperone for that event. And we played in this event, and we were playing disc golf in SeaWorld in Orlando.
Wow.
oh wow.
You know, it was like, I don't even know what just happened. And I'm not I never really got into freestyle. I didn't, you know, like the long socks or something, but never got into it.
You weren't into the leg warmers?
I was not, and no disrespect to Uncle Crazy and Uncle Hal. Love you guys. but it was just never, I mean, I just never practiced enough, but I was more of a power player, pretty good at accuracy, but more golf and distance and self-caught flight, MTA kind of stuff. So came down to the end. I ended up losing that event by 0.4 of a point to Jean-Luc Fauré of Toronto,
Oh,
Canada. Do you know this guy?
no, but I remember seeing, I think he was at the, I don't know if it's the Worlds or the Helsingborg Worlds.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He played in the juniors. Yeah,
With Stokely. I think he came third behind Stokely.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know he was from Toronto.
Well, he was from one of those areas.
Wow. Okay.
Man, he was a super nice, I mean, super classy, super nice guy. And it was like, he was like almost apologetic. And it was like, no, man, you won. So he won that and it came back. And, that's kind of what opened my eyes to there's more to this, and my parents were like, whoa, okay. All right. They got their attention and Mangoni brought me back safely. So it was quite the adventure.
So one of the things that we love to talk about is everybody's got a different story for the PDGA story. Actually, Mace, I'm taking your thunder here. Why don't you?
Yeah, that's all right, man. That's all right. I have to admit, I'm a little whooped today after making all those glass minis. So, it's so true. Like everybody, except for me and Paul and Craze and Hal, so far, pretty much everybody's had if I had $20, when I saw Ed on this day, I'd have number 8 or something along that line, So what's your story on your PDGA number? Your 2872. What prompted you to get it?
Rochester Worlds had to get the number to play in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, do you have a story of if I'd have done it when Dave told me to do it, I'd have this number, or is it just that was just the time for you to do it?
I had to do it to play the event. Dan's like, you got to get this number to play the event. I'm like, what number? He's like, it's a DGA or Professional Disc Golf Association, professional PDGA at that time. And I'm like, okay, let's just get the number. And so it was like it was like Wells Fargo back then, where you had the horses and the carriage behind. There wasn't like an instant.
It took a long time. You waited and waited to find out what your number was.
Because I didn't even have my number when I was playing the event. I got it after the World Championships, which created all kinds of controversy for guys like Greenwell, who finished a few strokes behind me. And,
Right.
and I'm messing with Greenwell, but it's true. I mean, they've all given me crap about that. It's like, you didn't even have a number. I had a number, dude. It was like
You just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I just didn't know what it was at the time, but we had paid our money and we had sent it in. And so that was always a fun story to kind of sit around the table and talk about. But yeah,
Just for historical accuracy, Greenwell finished 6 strokes behind you in Rochester Worlds. Just putting it out there.
Thank you, man. You are,
He's on it, dude.
Dude, this is awesome.
He's a digger.
And let me just say real quickly about PDGA numbers, because you probably won't hear it, but Dave had an opportunity to do the same kind of thing, get a very low number. And he was like, man, I just need a number that I can remember. Dave Donapace. So he came up with 987. I think that's his number, but it's sequential. And it was like, this is how they were doing it back then.
You could just pick it, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. But I didn't have that opportunity. We just had to get the number. It was somewhat formalized. It just took a long time for the horses to go, to and from. But that's my story.
That's
a good one.
Story.
It's great.
So let's talk about the 80s. Let's just jump right in there. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, and it's not like we're stuck in the retro phase, but mind you, I think retro is cool still, even these days. But we want to first talk about the kind of friction or the competition, the rivalry between the Oak Grove Gophers and the La Mirada Test Pilots. And I know there was different kind of groups. I mean, Stokely kind of grew up at Oak Grove. You grew up at La Mirada. Was that an extra element in the rivalry between you two guys?
I never really noticed that. I mean, it was just a rocky, hilly course with, a bunch of grumpy guys up there. No, I mean, no, they're my brothers, man. Jeff and Johnny Lissaman, and and Scott. I mean, they're all part of the fabric, the history. I mean, it's very hard and coarse woven fabric, but they actually represent and are honored to be grown up on the first disc golf course, and I'm super lucky to have grown up on the second. So we also had Huntington Beach, which was third. It's about 35 miles south next to the beach. So we had a good dynamic of players. And when Snapper Pearson created I don't know, you can look this up, Paul, but he did something masterful other than setting up his pay per play course in Morley Field, that was the other one that went in early. He did very well with that. Was his team challenge. His team challenge.
Oh, I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
Oh my God, dude. That was like, if you're on the team, I mean, one thing that they're not doing these days is a team challenge board where you have a peg board. I mean, now we can do it on the phone, but you have a peg board and you have Randy Ammon, number 1, you have Steve Valencia, number 2. I could hop, I could challenge somebody 3 up. And if I lost it, I'd have to go 3 down. So, I mean, Dan would set this thing up, and then you would battle people to be in the position to play in this Southwestern Team Challenge Championships. So that was something.
Match play?
No, it wasn't match play. It was more of if you won the hole, you got the point. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, match play.
Yeah,
so
match play. Yeah.
So that was it. Indeed, it was.
And there's no pushes. It's just like you didn't nothing happened on that hole. You carry on.
Right. So you could win on hole whatever it was, 9 or 10, and it was done. But that was huge, and everybody went down to San Diego, and Snapper always moved the holes around, so his team won 82% of the time.
82%. I like the way you dialed right in on that specific number.
He had a lot of time to look up the actuarial tables there in his little pro shop there in Morley Field.
He's done a great job. He's since retired. His son's taken over, and Snapper is part of the fabric of the game that we play.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
On the show. So I watched. I don't know if I saw the entire video, but certainly a very compelling video about the Japan Open 2023, and you and Jeff Pan is sitting down and talking, and one of the things that really leapt out at me was the Hero Discs orange van originally was the candy van that would come to La Mirada. Dave and Tim and Harold would load up with the freshest pressings.
Yep. And
you guys just knew if you saw the white van rounding the corner, you're like, here comes the AVRs.
Yes, dude.
So,
that's right.
So, I mean, that's exciting enough as it is, but like, just take us back to that time. What are you? You're like, this is when you're 16? This is
83, 83 was 15. So they started in 83. Could have been, I mean, it was 83 and 84, 85 during those magic times. We're young, and it's like, this is the greatest thing ever. Craig Leva and we couldn't get enough. After everybody went home, we would throw discs in La Mirada parking lot because the lights were on back and forth, and it wouldn't stop, and till our parents picked us up or whatnot. But yeah, having that van, it was special, man. I mean, that van was like, and the guys were, I mean, priceless, obviously, and we're getting these discs to play with, and they're like, here you go, kid, and having that van and just that full circle thing, man, that was magic. Full circle.
Yeah. How old was Leva? Were you guys about the same age?
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay,
he would have been 56 as well.
This sets it up nicely. Talk about the rivalry between you two, because I know that Mesa told a story about Leva and Stokely, and there was a serious rivalry.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I used to say I used to say Stokely, I used to say Leva, in order for him to compete with Stokely, he needed to have a bag on his head until it was his turn to fly, until his turn to throw. Because he would get mad at Stokely's first rip. That was awesome. You're like, oh shit, now I got to beat that. And it's just like, dude, stop thinking about that and do it's your thing, and it was so funny. I saw that at Round Rock several times,
It was more like I think they were going back and forth at it. Certainly one wouldn't want to be on Craig Leva's bad side. So, but yeah, it was definitely a rivalry. I don't know if they were ever, I mean, maybe they became friends, but I mean,
Oh
competition.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Later
Harold's
on, when he lived here, they were friends. Like when he came through here a couple times. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you your story, and I'll tell you a story about the two of them here.
good, good. Because I think, you know, deep down inside, we all respected each other, but we wanted to kill each other, right? I mean, that was the whole thing. People were coming from around the world for the United States disc free, the U.S. Open Flying Disc Championships. Teams from all around the world, and part of that big pageantry was to win the distance.
Mm.
So to win that was everything, especially to Craig and especially to Frank Aguilera, Scott Zimmerman, Hiro Oshima, right? Randy Lamb, all of the early distance throwers. I mean, that was everything, you know. Didn't have to worry about putting. You just had to get up. You had 5 rows, 2.5 minutes, line judges perfectly. You know, we were at La Habra Park, 8, maybe 20, 30 feet above sea level, no games, July, super hot, you know, no real wind, maybe 7 or 8 miles an hour. And we were out there, and it was every year, and that was like freaking Christmas, you know, playing. So between Scott, between Leva, man, they battled it out. Absolutely.
But were you a rival of Leva, or was he just kind of like another guy on the course?
He was part of that 4 rugrat. So he would,
Sure.
I mean, I would see him at Benton. He would be sitting on the stairwell at the school where we were throwing. And I'm like, hey man, he's like, don't bother me right now. I'm like, okay. So I'd walk away because he was mentally preparing, but he was like building it up too much, almost like wrestling, you know. It's like, dude, just calm down, man. Come sit with me because I know you can throw farther than me. I knew it, dude. That dude could throw far. He could throw the hot stamp off a disc.
Man, dude, I remember one time he was throwing rocks and aviars at this hole at Veterans Park in Arlington, and he was skipping in the parking lot and hitting the curb. It was old hole 4, and it was on a concrete peninsula. Like the driveway came around into the park like that, and we were throwing across a lake. And for a lefty, it was like it was the perfect hole. Like for a righty, you had to get it bent around backwards a little, you know, going right, and then play back unless you really had a boom. But he kept skipping in the parking lot. Throws a rock, throws a rock, throws an AVR, throws an AVR, throws another AVR. He's got no more disc left in his bag. And I'm like, here. And I gave him a whippet, and he threw it over the driveway behind the basket into the fairway of the neck of hole 5. And he's like looking at me, and I was like, it's not all about those blunt edge discs, dude. You know, come on, put some speed in your bag. And he fought it. Like, I mean, even after that, he would still, like, man, I guarantee you I saw him throw a rock 600 plus feet at least 50 times, and sometimes at the wrong basket, you know, but just crushing, like you said, throw the hot stamp off a disc. You're absolutely right about that, man.
Yeah, he was a phenom, man. He was a phenom, and he's missed for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
So I guess you were probably Steve Valencia was probably I want to say maybe 5 years younger than you.
About.
So maybe not quite the same level of direct rivalry, but what was that like seeing him? Because he grew up, I think, right across the street from the course, right?
Yeah, kind of like an older version of Bobby Music.
Right, Bobby Music too, for sure.
Yeah, but that those guys were all like part of the La Mirada club through the years. It was neat to see them, all good guys. And Steve was a natural athlete. You know, he could have played, I mean, baseball probably. He was just too small to play. I mean, he was rising in the ranks and in high school, but he had that natural ability. He could played soccer, or he could play tennis. He just had that ability to excel. And his throw was so smooth. I mean, almost as probably smoother than Randy Amanu was. And absolutely. I mean, Randy's still playing. I mean, a little bit, but they just had that La Mirada ability to. The course kind of, I think, molded their bodies to throw the way they did, and I think that was the same thing that happened to me. But Steve was a smooth, silky left-handed. No, and when he went out to tour, I knew, you know, it was like a few years after I did. I'm like, he's gonna wreck wreck some people, man. And sure enough, man, he did. It was neat to see because it was testament to where we grew up. It was an honor to our La Mirada club, and we started to get a reputation that, you know, La Miradas were champions.
Mm. What is it about La Mirada that just lent it to the great players growing up? Was it back in the day? Was it a tough course?
Oh, absolutely, man. Have you been out there, Paul, to play yet?
I played, but it was in '99, and I think it was probably different from the original layout. Obviously, you know, they go through a lot of evolutionary transitions. I mean, I
started
loved
with
it.
18. Yeah, I
But
mean, it is. I mean, I think to answer your question, that there was 18 holes. It's now changed, you know, pretty dramatically. But there was so many different mixes of shots.
Mm.
And we had the local rules where there was OB across the path or on the path. There was lakes, there was gutters, there was undulation, there was trees, there was roller shots. So there was sidearm shots. So we got a mix of everything, and we would play the course so many times that, you know, it was like, you need to go now. You know, it's like 10 p.m. Right? Couldn't get enough of it, right? Now I play like 9 holes and I can barely limp, you know, to my car, right? But not really. But now the course has evolved into 2 18-hole courses. Some of the holes are the same, but just classic, a classic training ground, a classic track to mold arms, mold bodies. And I think that was one of the reasons why we came out with so many great players.
well, I mean, Southern California in the late '70s, early '80s, that was the epicenter of frisbee. I know in Twin Cities, they've got their own, and upper, you know, Michigan, they've got the Guts. They've got a long tradition as well, and Rutgers. But really, when you look at the power figures involved, when you look at the fact that Innova started there, the PDGA was a little bit north, but still California. It seems like it's one of those epic histories, you know, like this is the Ten Commandments or the Bible or something. You know, this is where it all began. It's amazing to hear the stories. But let's jump into his early career, Mace. Let's look at the year by year, just a couple of years. We want to pull out a few things.
Well, so in '82, you played the 5th annual La Mirada Open Junior Boys. You took first out of 5 players. Second was Mark Molinar. You beat him by 11 strokes. And third,
That's right.
5th,
Molnar.
5th.
Chicken. His nickname is Chicken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know that.
I do know that.
I didn't know.
And you beat Leva by 15 strokes, who was in 5th. And then in '83, the 6th Coors La Mirada Open, you played Junior Boys. Of 3, you came in 2nd behind Leva. Scores not posted. Also notes he played MPO 14th and 30 people, and you cashed for $83. So is that when you went pro?
That's when, yeah, in 84, 83? No, 84, I went pro. Absolutely.
Right.
And there was the US Open that happened right before Rochester.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get that. We're still in '83 though.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah. Oh, yeah. You had the okay. So then you had the World Flying Disc Championships in Santa Cruz. You took 38th out of 107. Sully took 7th. Did you meet him there? Paul keys in on all this Toronto stuff, man.
I know.
Like it's the only place in Canada.
I don't remember Sully.
It is.
I won MTA though. I mean, nobody remembers that in 1983.
They need to put those stats in there. Come on.
Dude. They don't. I had like a 12-second row, which was amazing, and beat Doug Drawbon and then I still have the little trophy, man. It was like, wow, that's neat. I won MTA.
That's awesome.
And I didn't play well in golf. So all of that stuff kind of drove me to play longer and harder, I guess, you know.
But I mean, here you are, you're in 1983, you're 15, I think. And
83, 15, yeah.
You're playing at Santa Cruz. Now, Santa Cruz at the time, Tom Schott was running the World Flying Disc Championships. It wasn't part of WIFDF and it wasn't part of the PDGA. It was a separate thing, and it was an overall thing, right?
Yes, it was. Well, Santa Cruz was an overall thing back in the 80s, for the most part. Yeah, they had the accuracy, the distance, and we were playing golf on posts at the university there, wooden posts. It's a little different, right? When you're going from it was like playing in St. Thomas, Canada. I think they had whiskey barrels. Did they remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another story altogether. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but we all adapted and we loved it because we're all competing and we wanted to win. But when it, was all said and done, it was like, this is great. How you doing? And that's moving along and running the events, having people back. It was a great way to kind of, move, make your life a little more exciting, and I always look back at, I always was, the other folks out there that were just didn't find disc golf. I wasn't as, they just didn't have the same thing we did. And I just knew that we had something special. And as the sport grew and we moved around and went to all these different areas and saw all the different people with the same look in their eye,
Yeah.
I knew at that time that it was going to explode. And that was just neat to see that history. You just took me back, Paul. So thanks for that.
Oh, hey, we're on a time travel going all the way back. We're stuck in 83 right now for a little while. I can see the neon lights behind you. But it's one of the things that's totally common among all of our guests is part of the magic of all of this is the fact that you combine frisbees with friends and fun and even fitness. And I love the way you said that gleam, when you recognize that gleam in someone's eye, because we've all gone through, those of us who are the lifers, those of us who go to that, beyond the aficionado stage. It's like we're secret initiates in a secret fraternity.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
It's that sweet 16 first girl you kissed feeling, you're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like I've described people that are trying to tell their friends about it, after they've got the bug. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is way cooler than that. Okay. Like, you just got to come and check it out with me. I mean, this is badass, come on, and I mean, me, trust me, let's go. And people are like, yeah, sure. I've heard you say this before about something else.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, those that stay behind, it's like that old Twilight Zone, the kick to can. Remember that? The kick to can Twilight Zone. I hope I'm not alone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where a few of them got up and from the senior home and kicked the can and they all turned young again. So those that didn't just sat back.
That's like Cocoon all over again. I love it.
Yeah.
Up the frisbee and you instantly reverse the aging. So let's just jump into 84, shall we? I mean, this is the big banner year. This is where really you become the poster boy. And let's face it, you're still a very good looking guy, but back then you had the looks. I mean, if you
Silver tongue devil.
You look at the pictures of Sammy back in the day, you're like, that is California. If ever you just molded California up into a person and put a blonde wig on them, boom. It's beautiful. You were made for the, I gotta share a screen. I gotta pull this up. But go ahead, man.
No, you had
pictures. Sorry. Stand by.
We got pictures.
Jesus.
No, come on.
There might be video too. You never know.
You guys
B digs deep.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's Helsingborg.
That's Helsingborg. But still, look at that face. Look at this guy. It's like you fell off of Tony Hawk's skateboard and you won the world championships. I love it. Okay. So that's enough of that. We'll get back to more photos though.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Bellier.
But 84, so you go and you play the Huntington Beach Open, which there's video of, and it's great video. You take 16th, speaking of Sweet 16, and you're one stroke behind Mike Williams. So
Yeah.
he was one of those other names, and there's
Yes,
a great
dude.
photo of you with Mike and Randy and I can't remember.
John Ahart.
Oh, Steve Valencia, I believe. Um, how was that? How was Mike Williams as an influence in your development?
Man, he was there. He was a big, huge, blonde, surfer-looking dude. Dad was Wes Williams. Super great guy. Supported his son.
Didn't he
And
run the tennis center there?
he did, but I don't know if it was in those early years. He was always
It
very
was later.
athletic. Yeah, it was always very athletic and always going on these treks, across doing, bicycle riding and the Andes. I mean, it was like, whoa. And Mike was cool. I mean, he he was just like you wanted to hang out with him. He had good charisma and he grew up. He was part of our La Mirada family.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And then
I got a great Willie story.
yeah, he for the most part was kind of our big brother. I guess that's the way that I would describe Willie. I mean, Leva and Mike and Mark, and yeah, there he is right there.
Sorry, right there.
Yep, that's Mike Williams in the middle. There's
Right
Valencia
there.
and Randy.
There's Valencia,
Yep.
there's Randy, and there's our boy right there.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm gonna miss that guy too, man. He's they're it's something else. He's in the great disc golf course in the sky, my brothers.
So back in the day, before I met any of y'all, and before I met anybody that played very many people that played organized golf, when I was like coming up as an AM and stuff, I was doing I did 2 different 3-year periods where I did 1 week a month a lighting gig for Benny Hinn. And it was, he's a faith healer, televangelist, and he was all over the country and stuff. And so one time we played Long Beach, and I hadn't been, to LA or anything like that. And I had some friends that I'd toured rock and roll with. And so we did the Long Beach gig, and I stayed an extra week, and I went and stayed with them out in Hollywood somewhat, so to speak. But I got a bunch of different courses in that I had never played before, and La Mirada was one of them. And when I showed up, Willie was driving that blue Amigo. You remember that thing? I think it was
The
blue, or
Three
maybe
Amigos.
he had the Amigo, and he had stamps from the Three Amigos tour.
Right.
And then he had in his bag, he had a rock that was triple stamped that obviously he got from y'all, from Innova, when was seconds or whatever. Well, one of the stamps was the Veterans Park Open from Arlington here.
No.
And I was like, dude, is there any way that you would sell me that? It's one of the only times I've ever bought a disc out of somebody's bag. And I really didn't understand what I was asking at the time, but I was like, dude, that's really cool. And that's where I started playing. And is there any chance that you would sell me that disc? And he was like, hell yeah, dude, $10. And I was like, and like a lot of my first field aces came with that disc. I still have it somewhere too. But it was just one of those things. Like, I didn't know anybody, but I had a course directory, and I had a rental car, and I had a bag full of discs. And so I would hit these places, and he was one of the people I just happened to meet one day when I showed up for a Saturday. I think I might have played the monthly, like a Saturday monthly at La Mirada, and I met him after that was over or something. And so it was really cool.
Yeah, he was, and then his dad took over the shop, and then Mike took over the shop, and he's always an organizer. Come over to our house for poker. He would be the guy, right? So yeah, he was part of our group, very, very close knit group for sure.
So speaking of Mike Williams, so 3 years in a row you play the Coors Light or the Coors La Mirada Open. You win the first year in junior boys. You come second in junior boys, and like you said, there's 3 divisions, but only 2 that you qualify. Junior boys are pro men. This was in a different era. You wouldn't have been identifying as a pro woman at the time, so you played pro men. And in that 84, you take tie for 6th with Mike Williams, Jerry Garrett, and Jeff Lissaman. And that's 82 players. So you go from junior boy to in small divisions to like almost just very close to a podium finish on your home course in the big boy division. How did that feel?
I wanted to play well because I was looking up to these guys. You know, they're Jeff and Johnny. They made up the Three Amigos with Mike. I don't know if you know that. Three Amigos were Mike Williams, Jeff, and Johnny Lissaman, which is funny. Got some
It
stories.
is funny.
Yeah, it's funny. And Mike Williams and Jerry Garrett he was like the original Randy Ammon. Just had this, he looked like a Greek god, had this long hair, and he would just whip. I mean, he was so cool. He never got, it's like, you know, Calvin 40 years ago. He's like, he made a good shot. He wasn't excited about it. He made a bad shot. He wasn't upset about it. And he was just a super, super cool cat to be around. So to play with those guys, I mean, it just made me feel at ease. And I knew I could do it. And it didn't matter about age. I was there, putting the time in, throwing the shots. And, you know, I look forward to every tournament that was coming up.
Well, just for the record, the person who won that 6th annual La Mirada was Harold Duvall.
Nice.
He tied with Randy Amon, but apparently the history shows that he must have won the playoff.
Good.
And they were both the stroke ahead of Scott Zimmerman.
Ah, man, another one, man. Scott Zimmerman was another one of the idols that was out. I mean, and of course, Dave Dunapace, Harold Duvall. I would see those dudes, and I was like, I can't even go over there, right? Because they're in their clique. But I mean, I think they were later, you know, when I got into this era, they later recognized, and I think that's when Dave would like tap me on the shoulder and says, you need to throw these discs. And this. I mean, he's still doing the same thing today. This is what you're doing wrong. This is how you can be great, right? He's still doing it, you know. So yeah, I was like surrounded by, you know, brothers and big brothers and mentors, and it was a whole walk of life there, man. You know, it's really amazing thinking back.
That also is a fairly familiar refrain we've heard from players who got into the game early, was just the quality of mentors that were surrounding them. And that's one of the great things about the beginning and early parts of the game, and maybe even still going on, is just the quality level of people involved that look out for the younger people coming up. And, you know, we take pride in, okay, if it takes a village to raise an idiot, let's go.
Right. And there were plenty of village idiots back then. But we loved them anyway.
We love them anyway. So, okay, now we've obviously kind of fluffed it up. We're in 84. You're about to just etch your name in history books, maybe permanently. The AVR is released. That's the 3rd disc ever released by Innova. It comes out in 84. How early before Rochester did you get the AVR?
Rochester. Well, it was the U.S. Open happened, I believe, 2 months before Rochester. When was Rochester? Was that August?
Yeah.
August? So it was like June or July. I think it was June. I remember June because that was the U.S. Open. And I believe, I mean, I don't really truly remember, but I did have an Arrow. I did have an Eagle XD. I'm not sure. For rolling, I'm not sure. But I thought I had enough. I mean, we didn't have bags back then. It was just like 2 AVRs, you know, a towel, an Arrow, right?
Crazy
And
John Pro Pack.
basically that's it. And that what really drove me to Rochester was that US Open, because I was in the final now. I was in the finals going into hole 18, tied with Steve Bentley, who, you know, he went on to do other things, but missed a very easy putt to lose by 1 stroke. And that was the US Open. That was the Open, you know, the men's. And I was like, oh man, that drove a fire under me. And that I practiced every day for those 2 months. But I, you know, to be honest, I know I had 2 AVRs. I had thought I had an XD. I knew I had an Arrow. So I had 4 discs and a towel when I ventured off to Rochester.
4 discs and a towel to go tackle the World Championships. I love it.
That never happens now. Like, what the first time I ever took Nolan to USDGC, he showed up with the discs in his bag. And I go, dude, where's your spares? And he goes, that's it right there, Bubba.
Yeah,
And I was
he's
like,
old school.
I was
He
like,
would've done
okay,
just
well,
fine.
we're gonna have to get you some spares when we get to town, you know. And then later on, he comes back with a stack of like 5 when we get to the warehouse out there. And I go, no, go. That's not near enough. And he goes, well, what if my stack gets too big? And Harold goes, you'll have to get a box, won't you?
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
And you know, just like they don't even like he didn't even think about it. And I was like, dude, you have no idea. And he went home with a whole lot of new discs after that, and he left a few out there too, you know. So it was pretty crazy. Good time.
There wasn't really much water at Rochester for the Worlds. Not really many opportunities for losing this, were there?
There wasn't, but there was a lot of woods. You know, the AVR was not like the AVR putter back then. People used it for putting, but it was an AVR, more of a driver compared to a 41 mold or a 71 mold, or even an 86 mold. 86 mold was pretty close to the what AVR was before 86. But just playing that game, just having that confidence, that I had 2 AVRs, had one primary and one backup, that was everything. And going into that last night, I mean, I remember I was like, whoa, man, Michael Sullivan staring at me with those
those beady eyes,
piercing eye, not piercing, man, come on.
Yeah,
And I said, he was like wanted to kill me or something. I'm like, okay, this is go time. And then Johnny Saez, I believe, and could have been Dave Greenwell.
Yep.
We started off and they I think they got within 2, and then I had one shot that gave me all the confidence in the world, which was I don't know if it's 4 or 6, but it was off the top of the hill, and I just cranked that patent pending arrow it's just as hard as I could with a hyzer, and just whoop, and it went it must have been 400 plus feet, hit the lock, and that got me going. And,
wow.
Just got through. I got my 5 strokes back, and just never really realized what was happening. So
was that at Ellison Park that you're talking about?
It was, yeah, dude.
Okay,
yeah.
the big one off the hill, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
So was that event? It wasn't all at Ellison, was it? Or was it?
There was two courses at Ellison, I remember.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And I was with Royce Rosanowski, this guy, right?
Of course.
He was my chaperone, and Alan Risley was actually there. And there
really?
was a few other characters that were there, and they were.
Well, I didn't know Alan went that far back.
He did, yeah. I was surprised too, but he reminded me, and he looked entirely different, but I mean in a good way. And he basically they all picked me up from the airport, and I was with them the whole time, and they were just shaking their heads. I didn't realize what had happened, and I mean I thought it was cool, but I didn't realize what had happened until years later.
You stole all these old men's prize.
So
that's Bill Burns. That's the other dude that went to Sweden. That's the guy.
In the middle and back, right?
That's Bill Burns there.
Yeah.
But this is Steady Ed.
That's Steady Ed, yeah.
And is this after you've won?
Yeah, right after I won. And that's the Orbiter's Odyssey I was talking about. That was right Mangoni had sponsored me out there. Oh, and that's a funny story. Mangoni said, if I sponsor you out there and you happen to win, you can keep the prize money, but I want Paul Mary's disc collection, which I also, had I, delved into the crypto back then and kept Paul Mary's, I'd be a wealthy man. So Dan Mangoni chose wisely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now
I don't want a pie tin.
I took this from your Instagram, and this is just one half of the photo showing you in that t-shirt, and in the other photo is, I believe it's Kenji wearing this t-shirt still. Like
Kaz.
wow.
Kaz.
Oh, Kaz. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's my oldest. Yeah.
And so I first of all, I think that you had great taste in clothes. Second of all, I don't know how you kept the t-shirt alive for 30 plus years, but well on you for doing it.
Thanks, man.
Well,
I give credit to Mom for keeping those. But Kaz has collected all of my shirts, all of them. I mean, we have them, like Juliana made a couple quilts for us, which are priceless.
Oh yeah.
Those, dude. And then we had the shirts, and like in in the sealed containers, and Cos is like, this is gold, because he's into like antique clothes. And it's like, did you see this is double fabric? This is double woven. I'm taking this. I'm like, it's all yours. I can't fit into it anymore.
He also, as I recall, he took this jacket right here too.
Dude, you know everything. What is going on? Yes, he did. Yeah, he did, man. And he was like wearing it in Etiwanda High School, and the kids were like, how much do you want for that? And he's like, I'm not, this is priceless. This is my dad's.
That's awesome.
But we still have that, man. That was an honorable time, man. We were at the Tokyo Lark Open.
There it
We all
is.
got outfitted. That was by Nike.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Looking tight.
Dang, it was.
Absolutely.
You should see it now, brother.
Yeah, you can
Well-
show us in Rock Hill.
So before we move on from the 84 Worlds, just a question you were mentioning about Sully. By this time, you had met him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we kind of then formally knew each other.
But I mean, he's one of those competitors that just he can make you shook just by staring at you. And somehow he's got this ability to make his eyes wobble a little bit. And it just
You've
freaks
seen
me
that
out.
too?
Oh yeah, I know Mike very well. I've seen that look.
Yeah.
I was very privileged to see a lot of the jockeying when I was working for the PDGA. Mike would come in, and the mental battles that would happen between him and Honegger, it was just, I needed popcorn just to enjoy that show properly.
I would love. I've seen a few of those dialogues over the years. And yeah, you're right, man. But yeah, he was one of the guys that I respected. He was classy. He had a smooth game, and then he had other skills. Obviously, he was a great freestyler, and we became very, very good friends. I don't know if it was then or after Sweden, but he later down the line in the 90s was at my wedding, 1999.
Wow.
When
Right
I got
on.
in Japan.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, Sullivan, definitely formidable, and those are the guys that make you don't want to lose to those type of guys either. So he kept the drive under me, and yeah, those are great memories, man.
Well, you've already mentioned Sweden, so Mace, take us there.
Right on. All right. So in 1985, you went to Sweden. All right, I'm gonna butcher this. Paul Brostrom.
Brostrom.
Huh?
Brostrom.
I'm really good at misspelling stuff, and I'm even better at mispronouncing it. So you had a new partnership between Innova and the Swedish Disc Golf Pro Tour, recognizes the unique and deep-seated culture in disc golf sports and the disc golf and disc golf in Sweden. And those who went to both PDGA and WIFDIF Worlds really liked the one in Sweden. We've heard this a couple times already.
In 85, yeah. And it was the only one that I know of that, and no disrespect to Harold Duvall, because he was there. It was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. We were playing on these ancient, these were portable targets that were placed around castles. And we're playing in this sanctuary, and everybody, even in we weren't used to spectators, but people were just milling about, and they were watching. We were on TV, in the town of Helsingborg. People were like, hey, Frisbee, and newscasters, and they made it a really big deal, an extremely big deal. And yeah, that was one of the things that I was like, whoa, man, this sport over here is huge. And then in that picture that you displayed, that was the finals. There was 4,000 people watching that disc golf final. 4,000 people. We were actually on the train going from Helsingborg to Stockholm or wherever it was to fly out, and people were coming up on the train going, "Yeah, we saw you on TV," and it was like, "Are you kidding me? I just want to stay here," But it was magical. It was a testament to what I was doing. I was growing up in La Mirada. They were like, disco golf. You know, do you have a dog? I mean, the insults flew, as you know, especially back then, and it just started to legitimize what was happening. That whole event. I mean, not to discount the PDGA Worlds, it's hard to play. It's hard to play well, and it's even more ridiculously hard to win. You know that. No disrespect to the PDGA.
Oh,
Champion
right, for sure.
at all.
Well, and what you were 18 then. You took it down a field of 88 players by 5 strokes over Snapper, 6 strokes over Conrad Damon and Harold. Sully tied for 7th, Greenwell tied for 10th. Stokely takes 2nd in junior boys of 21 players. Tammy Pelicane, who I'm going to interview next week at the Pioneer Ladies of Disc Golf. She wins the FPO over Michelle Marini. And I found out recently that Tammy lives here in Plano.
She is one of the pioneers, man. And I love Tammy, man. When you see
Tita, so apparently Tammy just reached out to me to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about next week. And she goes, well, if you want, I could just wait and you can interview me later because we live in the same town. We get together for some golf and stuff. And I was like, no. We'll do that too. But you got to tell us at least one story, while you're there. And that she wasn't even playing until Tita came through recently within, I think, the last 6 months and stayed with her and got her back out playing and stuff. And so now she's going to that event. That's really cool.
Tita, got to interview Tita.
Oh no, we're doing all of them. There's going to be 7 ladies that have a 3-digit or lower PDGA numbers at that event, the Pioneer Women of Disc Golf. So we're gonna Jennifer and Rebecca Duffy are also interviewing them for PDGA Radio. So I was like, tell them one story, tell me another, and then if you guys want to come on for a full length show next year, we'll get you on there for sure. So I went to Flagstaff. One of the primary goals was to run into Tita again and get her on. And she was like, hold on a second. Why don't you come? Would you be interested in coming to this? And I was like, yeah, I'll already be in South Carolina at the time. It's not a far drive. Let's do it. So I'm really excited about that for next week.
Cool, man. You know what? It's cool. It's neat to see you doing what you're doing. Both of you guys just,
right on.
Capture the history.
Sticking with history and something that was fascinating to me reading about the Swedish, the report from the Whip Dip Worlds was that the finals was televised.
Yeah.
And it was broadcast and at the time, they probably, like in Canada, we had 3 channels. So you're not really watching much, but that was one of the most exciting things. That was the highest market share in terms of Nielsen ratings in Sweden that night. And so it's no wonder why people would recognize you, because half the country was watching the coverage of this tournament. That must have been an amazingly huge event just across the spectrum for Sweden in general, just for Frisbee, putting it on the map. And having Americans kind of in bulk coming over the top level. The world champion comes over and plays. Look at this. Did they give you that kind of rock star acknowledgement and welcome that maybe you might have received in Japan in other years?
Yeah, it was there. I was hanging out with the younger folks and younger kids for the most part. Who was I with? Jean-Luc Foray, I believe. Could have been. But yeah, it was neat because I was on my own for the most part, but we had a chaperone. We had Stork who was there, kind of overseeing everything. So there was a curfew. Yeah, it was a curfew, man.
Even when you were 18.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I was. It was.
He was 17 at the time.
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, and so we were having fun, but we were told to get back at a certain time, so we were. Just great memories. Absolutely. I remember the hotel. There's a scandal to the event, and I'm gonna have to. When the time comes, I will tell you about the scandal. But everything there, anything great, there's got to be something that around the corner that, hey, a little suspect.
What's going on over there?
Yeah. So great event, professional, wrapped up. Everybody's going home. We all get home. There was no prize money. and I won $4,000 for that event. $4,000. That was like more money than I've ever, you know, seen right at the time.
Wait,
And
did they pay you in US or did they pay you in Swedish
they
krona?
didn't pay me at all, Paul.
Oh,
There was no payment. So what happened was about 3 or 4 months go by, and everybody, and you can ask the other guys about it. It was like, what's happening? Everybody looks to the coach, which is Stork, you know, and he's the great, he's like the Abe Lincoln of our disc golf. You know, he is so awesome, you know, the way that he speaks, in a way that he just you know, sit by him and you feel comfort. He took care of that. And so he's communicating with the Swedish government. And apparently the tournament director, who will remain unnamed, took the prize money and took his family on like a European vacation with like hot air balloons. I might be like making up the hot air balloon part, but that's what I remember. And so the Swedish government had to step up and pay us, and I eventually got my check. And isn't that crazy, man?
wow.
That is crazy.
That's awesome.
That's really interesting because nobody's told us that one yet.
That's
Yeah, I hope it's
incredible.
true. Yeah, I vividly remember, and I you know, we'll need to actually ask Harold. I'll ask Harold privately. But it was something that was like, and I was eager for it, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
other guys, and you can ask Greenwell as well. I'm sure he was eager.
Okay.
But you know, it was a time where you know, we were flying across, and I think I remember speaking to Nick Hart, who was there on the bus or from the airport, going, "Man, this is really cool. I hope when I grow up, I can still do this stuff." And he was like, "Well, you know, Sam, if you stay in school, you'll get there." You know, it was one of those guys. And it was like, you're absolutely right. And I've told our team members over the years that, you know, it's, remember, you have to have, especially in the 90s, you have to have an exit strategy. I'm telling them, you know, in 2000s, when I was working for Innovi, you have to have an exit strategy. The sport isn't big enough to sustain a, you know, a family yet, but maybe 1 or 2 people. So, but you never know.
Mhm.
And that, I just remember that coming full circle. That just came back in.
So, because I'm in Toronto and because I have the Canadian connection, I'm always curious about the Toronto side. You came to the 87 Worlds we had on the Toronto Island, the only time the Worlds have ever been outside the United States. Prior to that, though, you showed up in St. Thomas and you won the Canadian World Cup. Well, you were first out of 31. What was that? What was your experience at St. Thomas like?
Was that Bob?
Yeah, Stocky Bob.
Oh yeah.
I remember that guy, man. You know, foggy memories. But certainly Jimmy Pay. I'm
Yeah.
coming up with names.
Yeah.
But everybody was like, "Welcome to the Shire," you know, basically. You know, everybody was so welcoming, and Wallace, just, man. And I always remember that. I was like, everybody's so polite here, you know. It's like across the border, and they're, you know, it's like it was neat because I realized I was in another country, and man, here I am playing disc golf, and everybody's saying hi and being very kind. And I just felt lucky, man.
You didn't feel bad about taking their money then, did you?
It was Canadian dollars.
It was metric.
So just for the record, I don't know who Eric Bramlage is, but you beat Whitlock by 10 strokes. You beat Sully by 12 strokes on literally his back door, his backyard. And Barnett was the last of the 5 of the final line. And you beat him by 14 strokes, Barney. Any lasting memories of St. Thomas?
I love that off the hill shot, man. And
Oh yeah.
I love that, man.
The VA Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, number 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just remember it just feeling so good. I wasn't really thinking about anything, just throwing it, going, okay, there's another one. And then, you know, you go through the years, and you have other things you're doing. You either don't practice, you take it for granted, and then those shots that were so effortless, they become so difficult.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Well put.
it is. I mean, it's like never. I mean, you look at guys like, you know, even Ken Climo and Barry Schultz and all the guys that continue, and I'm missing a lot of people that continue to master their God-given skill. You know, that to me is very impressive. You know, I'm doing other things. I play for fun now. I do a couple tournaments a year, but that's one of the things that I wanted to pass along is never, if you want to keep it, you know, don't take it for granted. Don't take your talent for granted.
Absolutely. Well said. So let's move on to the island then. You just trounced Sully. Now you're on his backyard. His actual. I mean, he grew up on the island, so there's actually a good story of hole number 4, the playoff hole, that was before the expropriations. Apparently, he told me this, so I'm not making it up. That was his grandfather's backyard, where hole number 4 cutout happened. But you come to Toronto, now you're in the big city, and you take a ferry over to the island, and you're with all the rest of the people. That must have been, I mean, everybody talks about that. It says one of the most exciting adventures of disc golf in Toronto. What was it like for you? You're what are you, 20 years old, 19 years old at the time, and now you're legally able to drink in Canada, and you're taking the ferry with a bunch of grubbies going over to play the World Championships. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Yeah, Sully and I were buddies, and then I think we had a dinner at his house. He was taking care of me. I remember throwing even Lavon Wolf, I believe, one of his discs, because I was like, they were like, see if you can throw the disc from the ferry to the shoreline. And so Lavon's disc was there, and I somehow, I don't know, I grabbed it and threw it right into the water. Like, what are you doing? But it was just, you're right, it was a magical entrance into like one of the most beautiful courses. I remember that. I think might have one on the wall, but I think the disc was like a 3-color hot stamp 77 mold. It wasn't even an Innova mold. It was a 77, which was, you know, pretty good. I think Dave may have designed that. But it was cool. I was traveling with Greg Hosfeld in '87. He was doing comedy clubs, and he would take me around and do his gig, and I was watch his comedy, and then we would go to the hotel, and I was in this little rabbit going from event to event. And I started off pretty well, winning a bunch of events, and then I started seeing Greg, you know, playing better, and we were working on different shots. I think that's where the knuckle putt came about, and also his walking putt. I was doing the walking putt. I'm like, Greg, this is really cool. So he'd walk, and Greg, who's very naturally gifted with,
yeah, without a doubt,
coordination, he was like, that's a great idea. I'm like, just don't cross the mini, Greg. So he just kept doing it and doing it. Next thing you know, he's coming closer to me, and he peaked at the '87 Worlds, and I think Sully still hates me for that.
Well, we need to get under his skin every once in a while. Come on. But it was, from everything I've heard, that was one of the more dramatic playoffs.
Oh gosh,
and
amazing.
I mean, it's huge field, 143 people. You come in 5th. You're 2 strokes behind Slade Paul, 5 strokes behind Wise Cup, and then he was only a stroke behind Hosfeld and Sully going into that final, that playoffs. What was the mood in the crowd? Like, this, was it electrifying? Because I don't think they were that close any of the Worlds before this.
It was neat. I mean, it was electrifying, I think, for the players to be playing in Canada. It was a beautiful setting. It was you know, a couple of people wanted to swim back. They were very depressed, but it was a neat, you know, it's about it's like Japanese culture. There's an opening there, you know, there's a compartment, there's an opening, there's the drama in between, there's the closing. So coming to the island was beautiful. The competition for some was horrifying, and for others it was magnificent. And then you had the, you know, the closing ceremonies, and then everybody went back together. So I think that was the special takeaway that I had. It was electrifying just being in Canada playing at that level.
Well, thanks for giving some extra time to all the questions about specific Toronto aspect. But I know we've got some of my friends, some of the people up here are always looking for some Canadian content, and certainly that's one of the great. It's something we hang our hat on. The
Yeah,
fact that the island
it was
is
awesome.
what
One
it
of my
is.
favorite worlds, dude.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
Was it just one course, or was it two courses on the island, or what? Everything there?
I think they
I
had at
remember
least two.
I remember two courses. I remember two. Yeah. Um, and I think we had fairly good weather as well. You know, it was nice. Again, you know, I was like, man, and I was getting to that point where I was, you know, my exit strategy was going back to California, going to go to university, right? You know, it's like, and I wanted to do that because I knew I couldn't survive off of 500 and 750 and 1,000, whatever it is. I knew that I had to do that, but it was bittersweet because I knew I was getting to the end of the trail, right?
Yeah. But I mean, needing that exit strategy, that's needing to think that those terms. But your exit strategy turned out to be perfect. So, I mean, you feathered the nest extremely well, and you worked hard for it. I mean, I'm not taking any shots, but
Yeah.
one of your other great highlight careers, one of your career resume nodes is distance. Mace, why don't we tee this up?
All right, so starting in 1970, the record was set by PDGA #2 Victor Malafronte with a Whammo Pro mold. You mentioned those earlier, and then 1982 at Paul Broström. I'm terrible at pronouncing things that are odd. Of Sweden sent.
He's my good friend, by the way.
Yeah, he sent. Sorry, was that one of the guys you were hanging out with a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, dude. If you saw the picture, that's the same dude.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so he held the record 152.45 meters, which lasted a year. And then the first beveled edge disc distance was Frank Aguilera with an arrow in 1984. It's so cool when I talk to you guys from Southern California because I've heard all these names from Leva over the years, and it's just like, oh yeah, I've heard about him too. I've heard about him too. I've heard about him too, and it's just Leva used to drop all this wisdom on me back in the day. But yeah, so you set the record in 1988 with an Innova Phoenix 190.07 meters. It stood for 5 years, and that disc is a speed 5. That's pretty amazing.
It's a sale. I mean, basically, it was only made for distance. The reason why Dave made it for distance is he wanted to, I think, beat the Swedes because he could see that and Paul's a great guy, but he could see Thomas Palmer. You could see Stefan Karlsson. You could see all of these Olympic, subsidized by the Swedish government coming over to play at the US Open, same as the Japanese, same as the Germans. I mean, it was serious. And Dave created this sale, and it was not conducive to golf at all. It was conducive that Crazy John was talking about it at, what was it, St. Paul.
It's
in spring break at South Padre, yeah.
South Padre, man, we didn't throw with bare feet, crazy. Monster cleats on, and and there wasn't cameramen measuring, but for the most part, it was as Crazy described perfectly. It's a left to right wind over the left shoulder, and we had about a 7 to 8 mile an hour wind at La Habra. And it was in the semifinals because it went from everybody that was competing to, I think it was 10, might have been semifinal or prelims, semifinals of 10, and then 4. And you had 5 throws, 2.5 minutes, and Stork was the guy, on the microphone saying, "Your time begins now." And I just remember, man, I mean, it was basically just a melodic, very slow turnaround, and boom, get it up into the sky. That was the reason why Dave had created that, because it was a disc that was supposed to catch the wind and sail with the wind. And then if you got the angle down into that X angle, it would push it an additional feet. And that's what the guy who was marking the disc said. That he's like, I could almost see the weight on the bottom of the disc. That's how much spin. I mean, I maxed out.
Wow.
And I knew it was good for the most part, but that was in the semifinals, and they came back with that 190 meter, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I wanted. I mean, after the World Championships to have that, and I knew that it was going to be tough for people to break it. I think Peter Albers after that had the Viper in '92, and that was the next disc that was like shrunk down Phoenix size, but yeah, the Phoenix was some massive chunk of plastic.
Well, I have to say that whatever Dave has done, I know he's a kind of more mad scientist, pure artist in the laboratory, but clearly when you look at the records for distance, lightning appears in the records once. Michael, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Cansey. Okay.
New Zealand, yeah.
The first ever New Zealander to crack the mark, 186 meters. Discraft is out there with the X-Clone and XL and XS, all by, X-Clone XL by Stokely, XS by Chris Vogt. But Innova is well represented. You've got the Arrow, the Phoenix, the Viper, the T-Bird, the Valkyrie, and the Blizzard Boss. They just keep making the longest discs. And, you know, you're one of those guys to set the bar with that company. So kudos to Innova for, first of all, 40 years of innovating, and second of all, for staying at the top.
Yeah. This is something you need to practice with. And I'm like, what is this thing? It's a monstrosity. And it took me like 2 months to really get it. And I came running back. I'm like, I got it. Because Dave would work with me. Turn no, get it up higher. And finally I ran back to him and said, got it, ready. And they were going 170. I think my throw, like I think I was like averaging 170 meters. And that was like, I was at my peak. I don't think after that I could muster a 625 foot throw after that time. And it's good thing is it held up for 5 years. And that's another one of those things where, wow, I didn't really realize what had happened until many years later.
Now I have a question. I came across this and I wasn't able to follow up with it, but there was some inference about you also having records for roller distance. Is that true?
Yeah, that's kind of a, I don't know. That's when the US Open went away. And then we had the Mercenaries going up into the hills to set the record, up into the atmospheres.
High deserts,
right? And that's good. Like the guys flying through the mountains of Norway, Red Bull. But it wasn't, I felt like that we took a few steps back because it wasn't Dan Roddick with his bullhorn. It wasn't a full-on line. It wasn't perfectly flat ground. It wasn't 40-mile-an-hour winds, which would have been fine. But you plan your distance event around the windy times, and you're up 4,000 feet. So yeah, I threw an ABR like 1,000. I rolled an ABR 1,000 feet. I never, that's not something that I recognize as a official accolade, but it's nice to talk about it over a few beers.
Okay.
Well, Stokely mentioned that he goes, dude, the first time I went there, he said I opened the car and the Frisbee fell out of the car and it rolled 1,000 feet.
Exactly.
He said it got the flop going, and then it kept flopping faster, and finally it just took off. Yeah. He said you wouldn't believe how far I went to get it. He goes, it might not have been 1,000 feet, but it was way longer than it should have been rolling out of the car.
It's a neat extreme event. Big D in the desert, and Stokely was running those events up in Colorado as well, and it captured the world. I mean, I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying that I'm an old school US Open distance thrower, right? And that was the Olympics, and then they went to Red Bull Extreme Sports. That's how that happened.
That's a good analogy.
No, I like the analogy. That's a good one for sure.
So sticking with the U.S. Open, what year was it at the U.S. Open that you met the Japanese team? When was it that you first kind of your personal horizons exploded?
86 or 87.
Okay.
Nobuya Kobayashi was the leader. Hiroshi Oshima, Hiroshi Yokota-san, Reiko Goto, all of them came over, and it was like, no, they had invited me over in 85 for the Lark. And then I knew them. And so I invited them to my house, and mom and
With
dad.
Stroganoff.
Stroganoff. Exactly, dude. You remember. Keen memory. Oh, yeah. So that was like the key. And they were like, whoa. And they were just, Mrs. Angela, this is delicious. So they became our family, as many of the Swedish players, as many of the, and sometimes the German mom's like, I don't want the Germans back, but I like Paul Brostrom, and Japanese are wonderful. But it was part of our tradition in June and July to host international teams, and Japan was the gateway for me. They said, hey, what are you doing at university? Still thinking about it, and they said, after you're done, come over and let's promote disc golf together in Japan.
Okay. So what did you, I know you went to Fullerton. What did you take there?
International business. I had a little emphasis in Japanese, so I could say, my name is Sam. This is a pen, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. I was prepared to go.
You took
Wow.
it a long way. You took that pin a long way, dude.
I did. And one of the things that was helpful was the hiragana, katakana, calligraphy, the written writing, which isn't the kanji. It's like the sounds. So I was able to kind of piece stuff together, but I certainly was not ready for like Tokyo University over there. And once I was like dropped in, after like 6 months, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? This is like a new world. It was like Monday through, it was Tuesday through Sunday was work time. Monday was the rest time, 6 days a week. There was no like, I mean, it was full on, they did not sugarcoat, and it was cool because they were teaching me the hard way. And I met a few friends as well outside of Hero. And I started, I was like, at 6 months, I'm like, I don't know if I can take this. It's like, but at like 8 or a year, I started like dreaming in Japanese.
Mm.
And then I knew,
Wow.
wow, okay, something's happening. And it just became my home. Because when I came back to LA, I mean, everyone's like, "Simasen, yoroshiku onegaishimasu, arigatou gozaimasu, hi dozo." I mean, it's like all the little like greetings that you prepare yourself as markers for the day. And at the end of the day, you're like, wow, that was all emphasized by different markers. And I started to really realize how special and magical that was. And it molded my life around that way of thinking. And then I went back to LA, and the lady was like kicking my bag like down the, like, welcome back. It's like, oh my gosh, I had culture shock where I was like homesick for Japan.
Wow.
That's awesome. So it obviously, first of all, it worked out for you personally, and you were able to acquire a new language and have access to a whole different cultural horizon. But at the same time, you're the first guy to go, pretty well the first American to go to Japan. And because you are basically at the straight conduit to Innova, you're like, did they treat you like you were the world champion when you first got there? Where you were like, I mean, because when I met you there, I was amazed. They were like treating you like you were a god, this blonde god walking among them. Was it kind of always that way?
I mean, it's neat because again, yeah, they have I mean, there's a showtime, right? And then there's an internal company time.
Okay.
When I was in the internal company time, I was low man, and I took me a while to realize that. And that was powerful, and most of those guys kind of beat that into me. And I respect them to this day for that. And others that were higher were like, Samson, don't worry, It's okay, you know. But for the most part, and then it was showtime. So I was working with Shimbo-san, my other mentor, Dave Dunapace, mentor, Shimbo-san, mentor in Japan, and we went around Japan doing demonstrations, putting in disc golf courses, meeting mayors from different prefectures, and it was just it was amazing. I can't really. I mean, it would be. I can't really put it into words. It would be. I mean, I just wish we had diaries back there, right? And I didn't do a very good job at that. So just that social media. I mean, maybe that wouldn't do it justice. I mean, it's just the memory that's what we take with us, right? The memories.
Sure.
That's very, very, very special for me that time.
Well, you, in a way, I mean, even though you grew up in the public eye from a very young age, a lot of times it takes a lot longer emotionally for us to mature. And so, you know, you're after college, I can see you kind of coming to maturity and your fullhood in this new place, and you're doing it all on your own talent and skill and hard work, and you know, you're doing it in a completely new culture and new language. That's brilliant. But at the same time, you're promoting frisbee, you're promoting disc golf, you're living the dream. You must have been waking up almost every day going, God damn, it's great to be Sam Farrens.
Not when I'm working 6 days a week, Paul, rubbing tape hands, and you know.
It
Now,
sounds much better in
trust
retrospective.
me, there were days, right? But it does after you have to have the afterglow and you start thinking about it. Absolutely. You know? And my kids would not disagree with you that I have not matured at all, you know, especially my wife.
Oh,
And I
well,
said,
this is perfect time to bring this up. Like, I've been told by multiple friends of yours that the
yes,
kids are the mature ones in your family and y'all two are the kids.
absolutely, man.
And
That's
I've definitely tied a couple on with you two kids. And I would say that, you know, I mean, from what I know, your children seem to be a hell of a lot calmer than the two of you are whenever I'm around all 5 of you, you know, like they're all just like, okay, come on, let's go. We're leaving.
yeah, time to go, Papa. Yeah, you know, we're lucky. We, you know, and again, we're enjoying. We enjoy respectfully, of course, and those memories last forever. That time we spent together in Nasu Shiobara and the karaoke. Remember that, dude? You showed some pictures. I think you had some pictures on your website of us singing together.
Oh, how could I not how could I forget? There's no chance of forgetting that. Like like the
Even
sun
with all
was
that
coming up
alcohol.
and like Brandon turned and fell over that tree between all of us. And it was just like, and I was like, all right, that's enough for me. I'm going home. And then he stayed up with you guys for a little while longer. And I was like, damn, you got it. I don't got it.
I mean, it was those are memories that will continue, and just all the songs and Nick Hart, no, trombone player, Hart, and Michelle, beautiful singer. Crazy was there, like looking at. I don't remember his first name. His last name is, but he was a virtuoso on the trombone, and Crazy was blown away. I don't know if you remember that, but those magical times that we had at those events, and you know, that was one of the things that if I didn't go to Japan, I would have never met Kumiko, my wife. And
Yeah, sure.
yeah, I mean, it turns out that the place that I was at, one of my friends who was teaching me proper, you know, Japanese and how to drink the sake, and was an engineer and a teacher, was Kenzo Ito, who is Kumiko's father. And that's how I met him first. And she was studying overseas. And when she came back, that's when we met each other. But Kenzo-san and Yoko-san, wonderful people. He's sort of the same thing, doing the same thing that my dad did, and ended up teaching at a university. And now he has an honorable coffee shop up at Morioka, and all the students go to see him. So pretty
Nice.
neat story. Pretty neat story.
Nice. Well, I imagine you must take a lot of pride in knowing that all the work that you did, even though you were the low man in the room, I mean, Japan is a bucket list item, a bucket list destination for so many golfers, and the Japan Open, it remains the top level premium. If they won the lottery, that's where they would go. And I know, of course, the team there, they're very professional. I mean, I met a few of the people there, and I've always been blown away by the work ethic and the professionalism of the Japanese national character. But we can't overlook your efforts in helping to create Japan into the international destination spot amongst your other, successes in building disc golf globally. But Japan is where your lasting legacy is, and that must feel special for you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that's 1990 legacy. You always try to, giving the comparison of my father-in-law who was working at NTT developing hearing aid technology to starting an IT division the next decade to starting a coffee shop to where all the students went to. It's the same kind of thing. You kind of try to reinvent yourself, to have that honor to be in Japan, to make a contribution it's priceless. You can't. And then what happened in 2000, I was brought on with Innova, did some things there, and now I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, man. I mean, there's happening, and I can't be any luckier.
Well, do you want to talk about some of the Innova global disc golf initiatives? You don't have to if you don't want to, but
No, I mean, there's things that are happening that are I can't exactly talk about, but I was just one of the reasons why I couldn't meet with you earlier was we were in Oviedo, Spain. We were in Norway. We later went to Finland and then Estonia. Those are all like, man, just to see the different people. It's the same kind of thing that we saw 40 years ago. It's the same, glint in your eye that they have it too. And that's the common denominator. That's the common, you don't need a common language. You just need that look and understanding and, hey, check this hyzer out, right? So that was a big trip. I've been doing it for, this was, since COVID, this was a big, a big excursion, and we're seeing some exciting things happen over there. My goodness, 25-year anniversary at the USDGC this year. That is a milestone, and hats off to Jonathan Poole and everybody that pulls that off. I know a Mace Man and yourself are going. I can't wait to shake your guys' hand, especially if you don't break my hand, Mace Man. Maybe we'll just do a very, very small.
Sam, you need to work a little harder. Put some calluses on that hand. Come on, dude. Shit.
You crushed my hand last time. I heard that already. But and it's just to sum it up. That this is 40 years. This is 40 years for Innova. This is 40 years since they've created the first bevel disc.
It's just amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. So let's we've kept you quite a while, and we want to thank you for your time. I know you got to.
It's not late there, Paul. Be quiet.
Well, no, but he's been at the office all day long. But let's just skip right to the 20 questions. This is our kind of our exit interview, just some quick hits, maybe pull up a few more interesting perspectives from you. Mace, get us started with that, will you?
Oh, so hey, LeVon just tuned in and he said, I picked Sammy up at the airport in Rochester Worlds because he couldn't drive.
What's up, LeVon?
Right on. Nice.
All right, so we're gonna get going with these 20 questions. First one, what's your favorite state for golf?
Kansas City.
Nice. So that's two states.
I'm not just saying that, dude. I just have so many fond memories with brothers and sisters.
And we've had three guests in a row from KC.
Yeah.
And we, I made the smart remark, but I think it's true. Like, we could go there for a month and we could interview a different person every day, or maybe two people every day. And then we'd spend the next 15 days going, oh, we forgot about 1, 2, 3, 4, like all these other people, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in Kansas, and I grew up rooting for the Chiefs and the Royals and the Jayhawks and everything. But one of my favorite cities all time is KC for two reasons. One is that it's a vintage town. And then it's one of about 5 towns in North America where I could move tomorrow, and it'd be like I'd always lived there, because like I'm sure you could say the same thing, both of you, like all the friends you have in Kansas City, it's just amazing. So I would have to agree with that one too.
All right, what's your favorite international destination for golf?
Oviedo, Spain. Right. Carlos
Okay.
Rio. Carlos Rio, I met from Spain. I know these questions are supposed to be brief, otherwise I'm going to surpass.
No, carry on, dude.
And Yeti, who has the all-time longest record for the interview. I don't know if you checked out those stats about yet. Carlos Rio came from Spain. I met him in 1987. He was the discathon champion, so he would kill everybody in discathon. If you don't know about discathon, it's like a 1 kilometer course where you throw discs. You have 2 discs, maybe a third one, and you traverse a course with mandatories. If you make certain stages, you get to pass on. And this guy has killed everybody. Incidentally, Carlos is our Innova ambassador in Spain, and he's a professional soccer coach in Oslo, Norway.
Wow.
Still
Wow, cool.
playing like a madman, Carlos Rio. So yeah, I love that place. Beautiful people, beautiful course. And they're just like we were in the 80s. They're growing with, they're just growing leaps and bounds. They're putting in courses over there, and everybody is super excited. So that's my number one right now.
Nice.
And I like the fact that you stuck in right now, because everybody's like, what's your favorite course? And it's like, well, which one am I close to? Oh, that's it for today. Anyways, your favorite international tournament?
Helsingborg, Sweden. The one I've played in, yeah. Helsingborg, Sweden will always resonate. And even the fact that we had to wait 4 months or 5 months for our money. But the balloon story was magic.
That's just another good story. I mean, that's
a great story.
Great narration.
Okay, San Marino, Ontario, or Rancho Cucamonga? Which rock rocks?
Damn. Love the San Marino. But the Ontario just has a sweet, slow turn to it, almost reminiscent of an old Arrow. So I'm going to go Ontario.
Okay.
Nice.
That's a great answer.
All right. So beadless or big bead AVR?
I'm going to go big bead.
Okay. Now,
Right
this is the time, and you probably already answered this, but your official dream card, 3 or 4 other players. We could be a foursome or a fivesome. Who's your 3 or 4 others?
3 or 4 others.
And this could be living or not.
Right. I'm going to go with Paul Brostrom, who I recently met. I'm going to go with Craig Leva. And I will say that one of the kindest people. I will say Dave done it well. Not Dave will be there watching, saying, "You're not throwing it well enough." He's the coach. Hiroshi Oshima and Yokota-san. So I mean, that's a tough question, man. There's so
no, that's good though.
That's good.
Yeah.
So was Hiroshi the guy that brought us out in the shuttle last time when I was there?
No, I mean, no, that was so when that was Yokota-san. Hiroshi was a distance champion. They called him like the Twin Dragon. So he was the distance thrower. But he was always very funny to play with because he never really knew how to putt, but he could throw really, really far. So he would be a great guy to play with. But I believe it might have been either Shimbo-san or Hiroshi that took you in the shuttle.
So I think it was Hiroshi because I was his chaperone in '99 in Rochester.
Really?
I don't remember exactly how we met, but and I guess I was staying at the tournament hotel, but every morning he rode out with me, and then we had lunch every day. And I took him to the course, and I took him back to the hotel every day. And he was the guy that, like, he remembered me too. I was like, holy cow, dude, I haven't seen you in because that was it was 15 years probably that I hadn't seen him.
Sure, it wasn't Shimbo-san?
Definitely wasn't Shimo-san. I'd have
Okay.
remembered him for sure.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that's awesome. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so we're going sports teams now. What college teams do you pull for?
You know, I'm not really versed. Um, you know, I gotta
This
go
is
with
an answer, so don't feel like you're giving the wrong answer.
no, I go with my my lineage, Pitt.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in that vein, it's probably already answered. NFL team, Pittsburgh Steelers, but I know why, but maybe you want to tell the world why. Are you living in LA, LA born, or at least raised? Are you a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
Fanatical Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I might add.
Washington, D.C., brother. Don't you remember 3 hours?
Sorry,
when
sorry,
Lyndon Johnson's birthday?
but LA raised. I should have said that.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. Frisbee raised, man. Frisbee raised.
Frisbee
My parents both grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They grew up there, were born there. And it's just been part of our family ever since. So I just remember Dad with the terrible towel and Mom and everybody getting together. Just wonderful times until the very end that we were all together. So that's very special to us. And yes, I am fanatical, and I do have faith. And you know, I still think we're going to go, you know, 500 this year. We'll see what happens. That first,
Yes, 500.
yeah. Hey, we're not quite KC. You remember when you had your trying times?
Hey. I most of the times I wear a Royals hat, so I'm just gonna say that's a symbol of loyalty because
Yeah.
they won when we graduated high school in 1985. They won the World Series, and they didn't go to the playoffs for 30 years straight.
Yeah.
And I still wear those Royals hats, you know. So I mean, I believe that you root for the team that you rooted for as a kid your whole life, or you're one of those people, and you're obviously not one of those people.
No. Thank you, Mace, man.
All right, so your favorite all-time number 86.
My favorite all-time number.
86.
For Pittsburgh. The player who played number in who wore the jersey 86.
86. Yeah. Man, you're killing me on live TV.
This
Oh,
is
no.
B. This is B, okay, just to be clear.
I just pulled this from your Instagram. I saw one time you're
You're
wearing an 86
Palomalo.
jersey. Palomalo, okay.
Yes, thank you, man.
And then-
80, I thought you were going back to 86 disco.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so favorite Steelers number 7. Who's that?
You're
Ooh.
trying to kill me. It's certainly not it's certainly not Aaron Rodgers. Oh boy, what happened to him?
Wait. That was 4.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's our Big Ben, man. Come on, Big
Okay.
Ben.
Big bet. Very good.
All right, so Lakers or Clippers?
Like the Clippers because I went to a Clipper game with Gavin Muir and Greg Muir, who were a part of the one of the 2 principals at Innova, along with Shimbo-san. And Shimbo-san and I were all front row court. This was years ago, and Shimbo-san and I got on like the kissing cam, even though we weren't kissing.
Nice.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, certainly love the legacy of the Lakers, and the Clippers are just, that was just a special moment. But you know, not a huge basketball fan, to be honest with you. That's just put me over the edge.
Okay. What about baseball? Do you have a baseball team, an MLB
You
team?
know, man, come on, Angels with you know, last year for Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
We've been there. He's a spitting image of Kenji. You've seen a couple pictures, but
Oh, nice.
and I was embarrassing my son, going, Shohei no Ototo. That means it's Shohei's younger brother, and dad, and he was just looking at me like he wanted to kill me, my son. But,
By the way, I think this is the time to mention, since we were talking Kenji, we talked to Craze, and it was in the 20 questions. One of the questions we asked Crazy was who his trombonist hero was, and he said Kenji Farrens.
oh man,
Yeah.
it's Uncle Crazy. He's been there since the beginning, listening to Crazy. I've been sending him recordings of Crazy since Kenji since middle school, and you know, he's gone a long way. I mean, he's going into like environmental disaster. He's in school right now, but he's
Wow.
Yeah, he's top trombone jazz player at his school, and they've traveled all over the place. He went to Honolulu to play. He's going to Munich next year to play, and he
Wow.
just has that ability to step up like Uncle Crazy and and play the solo, which you have to have a sort of special ice in your veins to, and it just comes to him naturally. And people like, whoa, that's Kenji, and it's been really neat because it's we're in a different world, and then we get to go watch jazz, and there's our boy up there. So,
That's
very
awesome.
very
That's
special.
awesome, man.
It's really incredible.
That's great. Okay, so your NHL team, you got one? Kings or the Ducks? Come on, man. I'm
I
coming
like
to town.
Ducks. I like Ducks, man. Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim's a special spot. We like it. We go there often for the Angel
Okay.
game.
Very
Um,
good.
But I need probably a couple of friends from Toronto to guide me. But it's
All
always fun to watch, especially when they're punching each other out.
That's the greatest part of the game is when they
Yeah,
just start
that's what I
dropping the
think.
gloves
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so you're sitting at home. Maybe you got an odd afternoon off and nothing else to do. What's your favorite sport to watch?
Man, I like golf, dude. I like regular golf. It's just something about it. Just kind of brings me back home again. It's like, wow, how do they do that? How do they? I've been to a couple, tournaments, and it's like amazing. The concentration.
Mm.
It's kind of that's what I look at in awe because of the way that they've evolved from St. Andrews, to now. COVID kind of spiked them back up as that is done for many sports, but to see them in that high pressure situation, and psychologists, sports psychologists, a big part of that training and how to speak in front of the camera, and that's what I think the next level for us would be once there's more money and sponsors, that there's going to be more internal care for our players and we're doing
Absolutely.
a great job. Don't get me wrong, but I believe that's the parallel. That's the next evolution.
Media training for sure. You got to
Yeah.
have that facility in front of the camera and not seize up and yeah.
Right.
So other than disc sports, what's your favorite sport to play?
Man, does beer pong count?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Are you
That's it.
kidding? You're a threat. You're a threat for the world championship. Don't kid yourself. It's a sport.
Dude,
That's
I
the-
just played with because there's been a lot of graduation parties at my house, and I just learned, harshly the strategies of beer pong, and it was fun. It was fun watching all the young kids. But I like gosh, man, bowling is fun, man. I don't really get out as much anymore. Used to play soccer. I used to play baseball, but we get out, we have fun with the kids. Cosmic bowling is cool too. I don't know if you do
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely, especially when they got the Saturday night rock and roll going.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the bumpers are in. Let's go. I'm in.
yeah. I love the bumpers too.
Okay, we're gonna throw some lifestyle questions at you. Favorite tacos in LA? Is it Red Iguana?
I don't know if I think that Red Iguana is in. I've been to the Red Iguana in Utah,
Okay.
but I didn't know that there was a Red Iguana in. But I like King Taco, dude.
King
LA.
Taco.
That's like the in and out of tacos.
There you go. That sells it right there.
Yeah.
That sticks the landing.
Yep.
All right. What's your favorite birthday meal?
Sushi, brother.
Nice.
Negi toro.
How about adult / cocktail, / adult beverage? What's your favorite? Or what are you currently feeling?
Well, I mean, if it was a fancy moment, I like sake. I like nigori sake or ginjo. I'm not a big like hard alcohol drinker, but I enjoy sipping an old fashioned. But my go-to
Me
is
too.
yeah, dude, that's fun. But if you're drinking, I mean, I'm a light beer drinker now, so I got to go with the go-to Michelob Ultra. Yeah. Yeah. It's just summer beer here. You can't go wrong, especially in
Right.
105-degree weather.
How do you take your coffee?
Black.
Nice.
Right.
Now, warm up music. What pumps up your jam?
I like jazz for obvious reasons, but listening to a lot of blues lately.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Nice. What's your geek freak?
What is that? Is that some sort of KC special?
No. Like, what do you geek out on? What is it like? Where do you turn into a nerd?
Oh man.
Nowhere.
No, I like history, and I got totally into ancestry.com
Oh,
and
cool.
reading about all that stuff, man. I mean, that to me is, super neat when we're making these travels to learn about the different places that we're going, history.
Nice.
That just like kind of gives it an additional sparkle, additional blanket when you get there to see these places in person.
Hell yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's the end of the 20 questions, and we're at the end of our now 2 hours, but they were good time 2 hours.
Without a doubt.
If
So
we could
one of the
push it-
things that
if we could push it for another 30 minutes, we can beat Jay Redding. No, just kidding.
nobody's beating Jay Redding. What are you talking
No
about?
way.
I think
Are you
Crazy came pretty close to
He was
beating him.
11 minutes shy. And isn't that amazing? 11 minutes.
Jay talked 11 minutes more than Craze.
He did.
I
That's
can't wait to talk to Jay about this.
No, I pay attention to these. I'm like Paul Bellier Jr.
Doing the research. Well, so here's one of the things that I always like to do before we turn you loose. Like, you attracted a lot of different people tonight. Some of them we've been seeing regularly, and some of them, are popping up as new guests as well, which is really cool. So Brent Harwell, friend of mine from the entertainment business, Chad Lefevre, USDGC photographer, Kurt Lampkin, who everybody knows.
Epic.
Good friend of mine, David Bartlett, Samara Johnson, Trey's wife, Ryan Hunt, Sheila Kirkham, Craig Getty, John Hart is one of my local buddies here, Steve Gans, Dan Cashin, Bob Coleman, Jim Oates, Keith Mason, Steve Brinster, Tony McGibbon, Ken Franks,
Nice.
another Dan Cashin, and I think there was a couple. Oh, here we go. It's moving again. Luke Butch showed up, Ted Barber, Bobby Brody, Forrest Howard, a friend of mine from the entertainment business, Dale Himmeline, Silver Suds, Chris Denderant, Dennis Integer, Jason Jalonen, Levon, my cousin Valerie Wheeler, another one of my suppliers, Matt Reed. It's kind of cool that these folks are stopping by that don't have anything to do with disc golf too. Travis Reynolds, Michael Williams, Deuce, Bruce Hudson, Chris Sprague, and Casey Allhouse. So that's a pretty great lineup. We get a few new faces every week, and we're going to make a format change here right before we start at USDGC. So we'll be on some of the other easier to find places. And thanks a lot for spending some time with us, Sam. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Sam.
It was good to talk with you guys, and thanks for including me. And
I'm looking forward to having an old fashioned with you in Rock Hill.
Make mine a double.
I can't wait to see you guys, man. In a couple of weeks, travel safely, brothers.
Thanks, pal.
Again, thanks for your support.
Man, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for telling us the stories. Really great to see you again. Great to see your smile. Lights up the light. And you just keep spreading the goodness out there, spreading the jam. Really appreciate it.
Tell your family hi for us as well, please.
I sure will, Mace, man. Have a good evening.
All right. Thanks, Sammy.
I got to wake up in like 3 hours to play with Dave. So thanks a lot.
Oh, yeah. Tell him we said hi as well.
Yeah, please give us
See you, brothers.
Later, dude.
See ya.
All right, bye.